Welcome to the Leap Hour, where inspiring leadership meets real-world impact. Hosted by Steve Farber, acclaimed author of The Radical Leap, this show brings you face-to-face with visionary leaders who embody the art of leading with love, energy, audacity, and proof. In each episode, Steve dives deep into the journeys of remarkable individuals who've embraced extreme leadership to ignite change, spark innovation, and inspire others to greatness. These are the game changers, the risk takers, and the leaders who prove that heart and courage can change the world. This is the Leap Hour, and the conversation starts now.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me on the Leap Hour. I'm Steve Farber, if you haven't figured that out by now. So a quick overview for those of you who are joining us for the first time. We've done several of these episodes, and there'll be many more to come. The thinking behind this is that through my work, which I've been doing in some form or another now for 30 some years, through my work, I've met some incredible people. I'm sure you've met amazing and incredible people in your work as well. What's different from the norm, I think, in terms of being an author is, and this is something that I honestly didn't anticipate before my first book came out, is that I'll speak for myself. I connected with people that I never knew existed and still didn't know existed after I connected with them, which sounds weird. But if somebody picks up your book in a bookstore or orders it off of Amazon, they're making a connection. If it's your book, they're making a connection with you through that book, even though you don't know that they exist. And then occasionally, one of those people that reads those books will reach out and say, thank you for the book. Here's the impact that it had on me, et cetera, et cetera. Invite you to come in and spend some time with them, speak. Well, that was my experience. And I started to meet these amazing people, and many of them became very dear friends. So today, we're going to take a little bit of a different tact on this, but I want to give you some context so you can fully understand where this fits in, where this conversation is going to fit in to the universe in which I and other people that do my kind of work operate in. So as a business author in particular, it's a little bit different for a fiction author, I'm sure, but for a business author, the business around the book takes a lot of different forms. So on the one hand, you've got this book out there in the world that ostensibly people buy, maybe, and that creates some revenue. And the key word there is some. What it does over and above that is it creates opportunities to engage in different aspects of business. And the traditional elements of this are, of course, consulting. On the one hand, somebody reads your book, they like what you have to say, they want some help implementing it, they invite you in. And then another aspect of that is the speaking industry. They hear what you have to say, they wonder if you could say it well in person on a stage to their folks. So they check you out, they look at some videos, and if all goes well, they invite you to come in and speak. Well, that's what I started doing way back when The Radical Leap first came out. So as you can see, the title of the series is The Leap Hour, which comes from my first book, The Radical Leap, which came out 20 years ago this year. And in celebration of those 20 years, by the way, if you go to radicalleap.org, you can download a free copy or free, you say copy of an audiobook? Maybe you do. But you can download the audiobook for free at radicalleap.org. I'd love for you to hear the book. So what happened for me is this book came out and I started speaking. I started doing keynote speeches. Actually, I started doing keynote speeches before this book came out. At the time, I was at the Tom Peters Company. I was a vice president there, and I started doing some keynote speeches. And early on, I met this person. Who was in the speaking business. And this person ultimately became my greatest champion. And more important, over the many years now, I think we first met in 1998, Rainey Foster has become one of my closest friends. Now, what is important for you guys to understand is that not just, hey, here's my friend Rainey, but Rainey Foster is one of the preeminent speaker agents, I guess is what we call it, in the industry. And one of the things that's so remarkable about Rainey, as you're about to hear, is her level of passion and energy, certainly, but her ability to create very deep relationships with the people in her business that she meets through her business. So this is something that you and I have in common, Rainey. I mean, some of my best friends, including you, are people that I met through business. So anyway, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Oh, me too. I got a little emotional about that. Thank you.
Well, you know, tears are fine, my dear. So,
no,
Rainey,
no, the makeup.
makeup. So let's start with the Rainey story. Okay, so you're in this business, which is you know, it's kind of a glamorous business. I mean, when I think about the people that you know through this business, the people that you've booked into events and all that, it's a pretty stellar group of folks. But how did you get into this in the first place? Tell us a little bit about the Rainey backstory.
Well, like you, my dear friend and awesome musician, I was a singer in Los Angeles, and my whole family was here in DC, pretty much doing what my customer base does in politics or trade associations, and I was sort of the one who got away and went out to LA and starved for about 11 years singing jazz, and loved it, but working 2 or 3 jobs selling art. And then I started getting interested in promoting original singer-songwriters, because I was sort of the gal in the black dress and the elbow of the piano with the stand-up bass. And when I was marketed for different genres, I needed writers and people to produce that. And so I was super interested in sort of that self-contained artist who would write their own stuff, perform it, press their product for $1.10 and sell it at the back of the room for $16. And I thought, wow, I really enjoy promoting other talent. That was something that, you know, I knew, you know, after 11 years in LA, I thought, well, you know what? I'm always going to sing jazz. That's what I do best. And maybe 3 people will know about it. What do I do now? And my whole family was back east. And so I missed them. My sister had just had a child. And so in 1996, I moved back. And then I was in Washington, D.C., and I thought, what am I going to do here? Because I wasn't able to really forward the career of promoting these original singer-songwriters, because like with big business, the minute they got the deal, I kind of got cut out. So I was back in D.C., and through a family friend, actually my sister and my brother and my future business partner, Mark French, had all worked together in the trade association industry. And so he had started a lecture agency that initially started out as speakers for under $5,000,
Right.
which was sort of brilliant, because the big, really kind of legacy agencies like Harry Walker and Washington Speakers Bureau and the Lead Bureau had been around, and they were in a whole different price range. And Mark French thought that would be an interesting pitch, and it was. And so they quickly outgrew that market. Thank God by the time I joined. But when I did join, I had been selling art in the past. And so but more importantly, I really felt that I could successfully promote people that had all different ranges of talent. It didn't just have to be music, but the leadership gurus and the economic gurus and the tech gurus. I was super interested in that, as I was when I was singing jazz in LA and promoting, like, the really indie singer-songwriter on the other side of town on a Friday and Saturday. So it started that way. And I was not technical at all. I mean, everybody was on computers, and I've been selling art and writing like paper receipts. And so, I thought a mouse was something with like a tail and 4 legs. That was it. So, and I thought, well, this will be a good job because I need health insurance and maybe I can get my teeth cleaned, because starving musician, 10 years, So that's kind of how I fell into it. It was in 1996. And I got the job. I got married a month later to Bill. And I kind of hit the ground running. And you and I did meet in 1998. And as a lecture agent, it's always important to kind of have your finger and your thumb on the pulse of what's happening. But what happened to me in building a client base is I heard about you. And, a client, I remember it was from the American Diabetes Association. And she said,
Right.
have you seen this guy, Steve Farber? And, my philosophy is I never wait for a client to ask me twice, ever. So I hunted you down like a dog, from what I remember. And for those of you out there, Steve was working for the Tom Peters Group. And I was quickly able to assess that for the 3-day-a-week workshops he was doing, 4 times a month, that we could do some really good business together because he was a super talented keynote speaker. And so you have people out there that have great information and can really roll it out in several hours in a workshop. And then you have people that can really deliver a message effectively, evocatively, in an hour. And that was you. So I hunted Steve down like a dog, and we actually signed him exclusively. And then 9/11.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So the work that you did in LA, finding talent,
Yeah.
people that you were passionate about, singer-songwriters in particular.
Yep.
And then the work that you started doing in DC with speakers was really the same kind of work, in the sense that you still sought out talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the things that has made you so successful in this business is it's almost like you're a professional fan. I mean, you get so passionate about the talent that you're working with and booking and trying to book for your clients. So again, just really high level for people that don't understand how the how the industry works. Your clients are really they're the people that are looking for speakers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there
And
is going to be a trade association or a corporation that holds, like if it's a trade association, they're sort of the umbrella over certain member companies. Like NACDS would have Hallmark and Walgreens and Max Factor and Revlon. So they are interested in doing a big meeting once, twice a year, usually a big celebrity speaker. And then they need something that really adds value, like leadership or generative AI and ChatGPT, which I've been working on nonstop for a year. And oh God, when a client asked me about it a year ago, I need someone on generative AI and ChatGPT. My answer was, okay, as soon as I figure out what that is, I'll get right back to you. But that's what's so cool about this job, is that it's like Jeopardy. You learn something new every day. And so when I found you, Farber, I was looking, the thesis of leadership is super deep, extremely important. And, I grabbed you because I knew, and then, I think that we gently encouraged you a lot to write the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where our relationship fits squarely into this whole idea of the radical leap. Because what happened was, when you hunted me down like a dog, and I was at the Tom Peters Company, I had not yet developed my own point of view.
Yep.
Right. So up until that point, my career revolved primarily around the work of Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, the Leadership Challenge. And Jim is, to this day, my most significant mentor. But I got really good at teaching their stuff.
Yep.
And developed, some keynote style presentations around their 5 practices model. But my own point of view, it was still in development. And then you and the aforementioned Mark French, the late great Mark French, I remember this. The first time I came out to DC to visit you, the first time I met you face to face, and you and Mark and I had lunch, and these were the words verbatim that Mark French spoke to me, and you sitting next to him nodding your head vigorously, was, and I quote, "I can't underestimate the importance of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I can't underestimate. You gotta write a book. You have to do it. And I thought, yeah, okay, all right, I'll write a book. What the hell am I gonna talk about? But it was yours and Mark's enthusiasm for my potential that encouraged me to make a radical leap away from the Tom Peters Company and into my own still developing world. So I started out there a couple of years. So Radical Leap came out in 2004. I went out on my own and went exclusive with leading authorities in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 4 years before the book came out, but I started to speak around love, energy, audacity, and proof. And it was you guys that really lit the fire under me to do that.
Well, it was you. I'm still very wedded to Kouzes and Tom Peters. I mean, I think, the whole do what you say you're going to do. And that was something that you had down cold, but you had such a different style. And the storytelling is where I think the business fable came out of, which made it so unique and so relatable, and also your own stuff. And yeah, Mark would say the books drive the marketing, but you just had the books in you.
Yeah.
And so that was exciting. It was exciting to watch.
So the very first version, as I was developing my voice, right? And asking the question, well, based on all this work that I've done with all these different clients and these great mentors that I've had, what do I think about all this? Based on everything that I've learned and all the people that I've met, if I could get everybody to do something, if I had that kind of power, what would I have them do? And that's the question I tried to answer. And that's where the LEAP framework started to emerge. But it did not emerge as a book. It first emerged as an audio series, as a set of CDs, like that thick.
Yep.
And do you remember?
Yes.
So
yes.
Answer my question before I even ask it.
So my husband, Bill, who tragically passed away in a plane crash 14 years ago, he was a rocket scientist. He literally, my mother was thrilled because I was always bringing home like out of work guitarists with one piece. Yeah. And so I met a rocket scientist and she said, don't tease me. Anyway, he had been at NASA for many years and then had been transferred to DC, which is where we met when I came back. And he had started working on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, which was something completely alien to a scientist. Although he certainly wasn't, with the pens in the pocket and stuff. He was very, very smart and very charismatic, but he didn't know how to not offer something that was real. So he was not quite super happy in this private sector gig where he was having to lobby and call people and ask for money, and or really work very hard for a retainer. And that's about the time that you and I were becoming, both you were my client and you were becoming my very close friend, and Bill's as well. And you had the sets and you gave them to him. And we fell asleep to you for many, many nights.
I'm so sorry.
Oh man. And it was the beginning of the Radical Leap. And there's a couple of acronyms in there, right? Like, love and energy, audacity, and proof. But the one that really resonated with Bill and has continued to resonate with me is the OSM. And that's, can I say it? Yeah. The oh shit moment, where the whole fable, the whole idea of it was so evocative to both of us, but particularly changed his life. It changed his life because he needed that OSM moment. I was already in my place. I was building my current leading authorities. I was loving it. I was learning. I was growing. But he was at a critical crossroads, and it was LEAP, and it was OSM that sort of pushed him into a place where he ended up starting his own company, and that was super successful. And he was very much in his place and understood, really was living the principles of the book and really understood about not being a poser, about being authentic, about doing what you say you're going to do, about being okay and saying you love your people, and more importantly, you love what you do. So it was a total game changer for Bill. And of course, we went nuts booking you with it. It was terrific and great because it was different. There wasn't really anybody else who spoke about love without going, oh yeah, we can't book love.
Right.
Whatever you do, we can't book love. So yeah, that's a very personal story. There's been just a lot of ripple effects for many, many years now, 24 years, 25 years.
Yeah. Well, so what I remember about that was everything you just said, certainly. But from a personal standpoint, so I was in the early stages of getting my body of work out into the world and really discovering what my body of work is. What is it that I have to say, and how do I say it? So the reason I put that audio series together was because I still did not have a book. And I needed something. So I figured, well, I could talk. I'll just go blah, 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 blah into the microphone and just kind of, barf out everything that I'd learned by that point, and then edit it. And it came together pretty nicely, and it became, in a lot of ways, a template for the book. But the title of that was actually called Extreme Leadership in Pursuit of the OSM. That was the title of that series.
Of the audio series.
Of the audio series.
I don't remember that. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think I must have one lying around somewhere. But what was so significant for me is that it was the first time, other than from a stage with a live audience, that I put something out into the world, small W world, by the way, and got feedback on it. So when you and Bill both started telling me the impact that this was having on him, it was such a significant emotional moment for me, because it was confirmation from people that I really love and respect, and it was a bit of foreshadowing as to what kind of impact that's going to have on people over the years. So that combination of friend and fan, I think that's what you do, Rainey. Not just, obviously it's true for me, but if you look at your whole career, you've done that with, when I say done that, you've had that dynamic with probably countless people by now. Your clients love you.
Yeah, I love my clients. I got remarried about 6 years ago, and a lot of them were at the wedding, including you and Nikki. So,
I wore Bermuda shorts.
You did. You got nice wheels. Yeah,
because it was in Bermuda. Just to be clear,
it was in Bermuda.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's imperative to love your clients. There's lots of agencies, and in our business, it's super important to have market share. So having an exclusive roster where your competitors have to come to you, like we signed Katie Ledecky, which we're thrilled about. We have Dr. Fauci, which I'm thrilled about. And for clients, competitors need to come to you to broker that talent. So market share is super important. But I've always known with my clients too, that they're just as important. Obviously, they're the butter on the bread. But my talent, I think, it's an exciting business, because when somebody comes in, and I never knew that leadership was such a deep thesis. I didn't understand how it trickled down, and that by being the kind of leader that does not pose, that does what they say they're going to do, and that also loves you, that it puts a culture in place, and that culture in place leads to another topic I'm asked to work on a lot, which is generations, and also retention and maintaining employees and creating a happy workforce. And that was something that you really spearheaded. And I think the format of the Business Fable was just so arresting. I have such a visual when I think about reading the book, because I just have a visual of the guy with the surfing shorts hanging down by his knees and that sort of thing. So it's exciting and it's fun. And I'm Italian, so I'm going to love you unless you give me a reason not to. But I am very particular about things that I learned that are new. I get very, very excited about that. So that was the case with you. And again, people will say, how could it be so deep when it's leadership? Well, it is. And it leads to a ton of other discussions and things that really are viable in the workplace, and why, the great resignation and all that stuff, and how do you get people to stay and feel ownership, and how do you also encourage them to have that oh shit moment, because everybody's got to face it at some time.
Right.
Everybody's got to face it at some time. So that is exciting to me. And also, when I see and hear somebody new, and I'll tell you a quick story because this actually happened, and I'm proud of it. Because about a year ago, not even a year, I was asked to do one of these for like a speaker group. Actors have SAG, and musicians have AFTRA and have ASCAP and that sort of thing. But there's like a union of people that really want to get into the speaking business because it's a great way to make a living. I wish somebody would pay me to speak, but so far they have not.
Okay.
I got a lot to say, but no, it's an honor to be in the business. And so the very creative group out there that does speaker videos and sort of does speaker boot camps for people that may be having a fantastic story, or maybe former CEOs or executives that want to move into the speaking world, have written a book, have a lot of real life walk the walk experience, but don't know how to do it. And so this group sort of takes in hand and grooms speakers. So I agreed to do this podcast for them to sort of give advice to aspiring speakers. And it was on Zoom, and there were just all these different faces coming up. And this one face popped up, and this guy looked exactly like ZZ Top, just really, really, his energy, not to sound too woo-woo, but his energy hit me right over the head. And I said, "Who are you?" And you could hear this dead silence throughout, because I didn't say that to anybody else. I said, "Who are you? I want to talk to you later." And his name is Justin Wren. And he is he's a former mixed martial artist, and he has gone to Africa and worked and lived with the pygmies and started like a foundation and a water system. And he has had one of the most meteoric rises in speaker history in the last 6 months. And so I didn't know if I could develop him as much as I'd like to be able to say we can develop talent, because that's not our business, but managers do. So I introduced him to a manager that I really respect and love, and he has developed him. And this guy has just gone to like number one with a bullet. It's been really, and it would not have flown 10 years ago. He's a big guy, and he looks a little fierce. He looks like ZZ Top. So that's fun for me. But I think it's just such an interesting business, and I think it's also, it's kind of a gift to live in this business because it keeps your brain sharp, and you learn. And I love to learn. I love to learn, and I love to love. So I love my talents, and I love my clients, and because life's too short.
So let's take that one more level down, because you've mentioned this a couple of times. And as you know, it's something that I focus a lot of my efforts on, and that is that if you're trying to, as every business should, create an experience for your clients and customers that they're going to love, that they love doing business with you, and you want more of that experience across your enterprise, then the way to get there is to create a culture that people love working in. So talk a little bit about the leading authorities, environment, culture, and all that, because it's been a while since I've been there to visit.
Right.
And I think it's at the point now where I think the only people that I know at leading authorities are the old guard.
That's us, the legacy people.
Yeah. So what is it? Describe the dynamics now, because it's kind of a combination of virtual and under the same roof, right?
Yeah, there's been
kind of spread out, but you're also together. How does that work?
Well, first of all, a little bit of history, because we were strictly a lecture agency. And one of the things that I was super interested in when I came on board was to bring entertainment to the agency, because I knew our clients were doing it. And of course, Mark French, who read 5 newspapers by 6 and watched like the History Channel for fun, thought that Dana Carvey was a stripper. So, I'm like, why don't you let me just handle this part? And the point of this is that it opened a whole different division of our lecture agency, and we were doing entertainment. But if we were doing entertainment, then the discussion was, hey, if we're booking your talent and we're booking the music, can we produce it? Can we build the stage? Can we help create an experience around this instead of just speaker and slot, right? Boom,
Right.
give me your money, we're done. But really, let's go out and film Steve Young, who's agreed to speak for it. We'll send our video crew out there to say, hey, I'm Steve Young. Can't wait to be with you at the blah, blah, blah association. And the same with the entertainment, because there's a lot of redundancy in actually building the stage and, bringing in just the specialized monitors and racks and stacks and mics and that sort of thing. So that was something that created a completely different culture at Leading Authorities, because instead of just being a lecture agency, we now had really interesting creative video graphic designers, and they're all like 14, and and doing. I just celebrated.
Everybody's 14.
I just celebrated 28 years of Leading Authorities, and I started as a zygote, but I wasn't even an embryo yet. But so I love that, because we've got like multiple generations, right? So we've got the kids, I guess now young, in their 30s, but doing the video stuff, and all the producers as well we have on staff, and the creative design people. So I love that. Now that came to a screeching halt in terms of being together with COVID.
Right.
And I have mixed feelings about this, because I don't think we would have been able to get through COVID if we did not have this culture in place where, all the departments work together really well. If I book you as a speaker, I'm going to say, hey man, this guy's like a first-rate guitarist. Let's go out and do a video of Steve playing the guitar saying, hey, can't wait to be with you at your meeting, right? And if we're doing the other stuff too, so I'm working with video and I'm working with the producers and we're building the stages. And that came to a screeching halt with COVID. And what we decided to do very quickly was to do virtual production, which none of us knew how to do. But we figured it out really quickly, and that saved the business. And we hired some remarkable people during COVID. My event partner, Olivia, I didn't meet her for 2 years. So somehow we managed a bond that's really unbreakable. She's amazing, and a bond of trust. It was a bond of trust and partnership. She's never, and that was virtually.
Yeah.
I worried about bringing new people on that didn't experience, the bullpen, and when you're walking around,
Sure.
you're hearing other people on the phone, you're throwing little airplanes at each other with recommendations when you feel somebody's struggling. I worried about that. I fear that will never actually come back. It's because it's such a hybrid world. So we have, to answer your question, 493 minutes later, we have the newer people come in like 4 days a week, like brand spanking new, but they pretty soon graduate to 3 days a week. And senior people come in 2 days a week, and I come in 1 day a week. But unless you're coming to town, then I'll come in. But it's also for someone who's been doing this as long as I have, I'm very secure in my brand. And what I try to do when I am in there is get people to pick up the phone and call their clients, because the Y generation and the millennials and the Z they've got the headphones, and it's very isolated. And I cannot stand that. They laugh when I come in, because I'll literally go through and pull the things out of their ears and say, talk to me. Tell me a story. Pick up the phone, call your client. Find out if he had that grandchild. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Is it a girl? What's his or her name? How much does she weigh? That's the culture of I think that works really well in sales. What I'm happy to say within our circle is we have fostered a culture where, as salespeople specifically, no one is competing with each other. We all have our own dragons to slay. We all have our own clients. So we share. There isn't a proposal that I have written in 28 years that I haven't shared. Because I want them to, it's so overwhelming when you come into this world and there's so many bright, creative, brilliant speakers out there. You'd be struggling to think of one at the end of the day that got hit by a bus and lived to tell about it, and it's $5,000. So you need to continuously share. So that does happen virtually. It does.
Right. So I want to rewind just a second.
Yep.
And go back to Olivia.
Oh my God.
Because here's what this is what you said. You said, somehow, virtually, never having met face to face, somehow we managed to create an unbreakable bond of trust. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing, but that's what you said.
Yeah.
So what I'd love for you to do is take an objective look at the somehow. Not somehow. What did you do? I mean, how specifically, when you look back on it now and analyze it, what did you do virtually to create that deep level of trust with her?
Well, the environment was COVID, and she had been hired as like a sales coordinator, and I quickly grabbed her because my event coordinator, who Diggs really is the partner, left. And so I probably had 500 cancellations in March of 2020. And then they all rebooked for, March of 2021, and they all canceled again. And then they converted to virtual, and we pushed them to 2022, and some of those were half. It was the most overwhelming stream of work I've ever dealt with. I'm pretty good with numbers, but trying to keep track of, the same bookings being pushed. She was my partner on that. We were not sitting side by side. So we would spend hours on the phone, Zooms, and I say, okay, let's look at this because I can't add that. Can you add that? And we worked the problem together. Technically she would be my support person, but I just don't see her that way. I couldn't do absolutely anything that I do without her. And that was a real trial by fire. That was really tough. And we worked hours and hours and hours on that. I would like to say that she would think that I respect her immensely because I do. And I respect her immensely. She's 27 years old. She's going to die when she sees this if she doesn't, but she's that very special, and I have such remorse. And so moving forward, once we got through this really, really difficult period and people started booking speakers again and stuff, I have never been able to release a detail of an event. I am a complete control freak. I want my clients to know that it's not just, boom, bye, Rainey, once you give me the contract. So I always insisted on being copied on everything that my event partner would do, moving through the process of bringing the client, pre to on-site event. And I have such trust in her ability and, and her writing skills and her brain that she's completely released me. I mean, we went on site last week in Denver and I'm like, who's the client? No. I mean, I really trust her so much. So I think, there was a crisis there, but also I was super frustrated that I couldn't meet her. And I wanted her to feel invested. I wanted her to feel like my partner, not my assistant, because she is. And I don't know what other salespeople do. I mean, in the big talent agencies, there's definitely a schism, right? You're either an agent or you're wiping the floor. But I think it's up to you to decide the kind of friendship and the business relationship that you're going to form, and that your employee and your partner feels valued, feels really, really valued. And I can't tell you how many times I say I love you to her. And she's very, very professional. And, she doesn't be like an emoji, but I do. I love her. And I want her to know she's made a huge difference. She's been, she's really been amazing through a really difficult time with COVID and coming back up.
So there are, well, thank you for the specific example, because I mean, this is something that I'm passionate about. I mean, as you know, I'm a storyteller, but I'm also a story learner, and I love to hear those examples, and then it's okay. Let's extract the principles out of that everybody can use. So what I heard is, and again, this was in a virtual context, not literally sitting in the same room.
Because it was, yeah.
So you were dealing with challenges together. So there's a challenging scenario. You spent a lot of time together virtually, on the phone, on Zoom, face to face, mouth to ear, whatever that is, on the phone. And your approach was not to sit there and tell her what to do in that context, but to bring her in as a true partner and solve issue after issue after issue together.
Yes.
So spending time together, treating other people as partners, finding not that this is so hard to find nowadays, but finding challenges to work on together in that partnership. Those are principles that everybody, I believe, should be applying with all of their relationships. So if I've got a team of people that quote unquote report to me, am I dealing with them as kind of buttons that I push to make things happen, or am I bringing them in and giving all of us an opportunity to solve problems and create opportunities together?
Yeah.
That's what you do.
I think that's what I do. I really I love her. Well, also to going to your second book, she's one of my GTY projects. So my daughter was my first one. My daughter works at leading authorities and is just killing it. Just tremendous leader. She's a leader. And she was my first GTY, Greater Than Yourself project, which is Steve's second book, which is awesome.
Actually, third book.
Third book. Radical Edge, Radical Leap, Radical Edge, Greater Than Yourself. So that was something that really rang true with me as well. And honestly, I'm going to give you a weird metaphor, but I talk a lot about grief, as you know, because I lost my husband in 2010, and I lost my brother in 2014, and then I lost Mark, my business partner, and a few other important people along the way. And I found that the only way to deal with grief when you're in intense grief is to take the emphasis off of your grief and reach out and help somebody else with theirs, because my mom has an old saying, you'll bring your troubles to the middle of the table with everybody else, and you'll be really glad to leave with your own. And so that saved my life after Bill died, was being able to empathize and understand the situation with other people that were going through deep grief. And it's the same here, in terms of passing on the knowledge and also just being able to be a reflection. My life is a mirror kind of thing. But that takes the emphasis off of, my goals, my whatever, in terms of nurturing somebody's talent, and I see Olivia as someone who has remarkable talent, and I want to throw it out there, and I want her to be better than me. I want my daughter to be better than me. I want her to wipe the floor with me. I do, in this business. And so I love that. And I guess that's what it comes down to. I get super excited when I hear something interesting. I get super excited when I hear a great piece of music. I mean, you have to peel me right off the ceiling. You know that. We're exactly the same way that way. And that passion, I didn't think I'd ever find anything I loved as much as music, but this is really close.
So the common thread through the Rainey Foster story is really, really clear to me. And again, it's a principle that I wish everybody would adopt, and that is, it's an appreciation for a deep appreciation for other people's talent and potential, and then the drive to help them live into that potential. That's what you did in the music business. That's what you did in the lecture agency. That's what you do with your team. And it just, there's something about that, in the Radical Edge, book number 2, I call it fascination. It's really developing a fascination for other people, a true fascination, a true, deep love-based curiosity. And then that desire, what comes along with that is the desire to help, not to do it for them, but to help them rise into their possibilities.
Well, I hope so. I love that. And I think the other thing too, this is just, again, quoting my mom. When we were going through that big crisis with COVID, it was really long hours. It was 2, 3 in the morning. And my mom, who shattered the glass ceiling like 60 years ago, said, don't you ever leave a colleague there. Don't you ever leave a colleague doing the work and you go home. Don't ever do that. If you are a manager, if you have a company, whatever it is, don't you leave your employees there. They'll never forget. And I never forgot that. So, we would be on the phone at 3 in the morning, and I'd be making pasta because we had once this happens even without a COVID, I'll get a call from a former Navy SEAL who's been deplaned in College Station, Texas, because of a dust storm, and it's Saturday night, and I need him like in Tucson at 8 o'clock the next morning. So I'm working the problem with somebody, and I'm calling the Navy SEAL and saying, okay, man, you got to rent a car out of Hobby. You got to drive to Dallas, whatever. I got the last middle seat for you on Southwest Airlines, and I'll get you there at 6:22. We'll have a car pick you up, and you'll be downbeat at 8:30 on stage. That's the kind of stuff you're working at 3 in the morning. When you need to figure out there's no commercial airlines, you got to drive someone. They've got to take like a freaking mule to the site. Whatever that's working the problem. And I would say just never leave anybody alone working the problem.
So that's another element that I've seen, and anybody that knows you has seen play out many times, is what you just talked about. It's that the problem solving side of the equation, right? So it's one thing to be in a totally collaborative situation and let's figure this out together. And then there are times where you don't necessarily have that luxury.
No.
Right. So you've got to make it happen yourself. I've seen you do that in so many different contexts, including, when somebody's experiencing a crisis. You've been through so many personal crises. I mean, if anybody's had the opportunity to experience and learn from the experience of grief, it's you. And I've seen you be the knight on the white horse for people. When you see other people in crisis and you've got an idea on how to fix it, you just go and freaking fix it.
Well, I'll tell you, if you get sick, I'm definitely the person you want to call if you get sick, because I'll know everything.
Or when your cat gets sick.
The cat too. I mean, if you get sick, man, I'm your advocate. I just believe that you have to have an advocate. Probably not just when somebody's ill. You definitely need an advocate when somebody's ill, so that you can be those eyes and ears and actually tick everybody off. But that's okay. Find out the way. But I think you need to do that in life too. You need to be an advocate about, what's the saying? If you can, you must. I did not say that. I think Bobby Kennedy said it. I'm not sure, but I love that. If you can, you must.
Yeah. So when I again kind of back up and take a high level view of this conversation, I'm hearing these. What I hope people take away from this is the question: how can I, in the work that I do, how can I really tap into my heart, my love for other people? If I don't have love for other people, that's a challenge of a different kind.
Yeah.
But in my experience, most people do. So if it's there, how do I bring that out and apply it to the people that I do my work for, otherwise known as clients, and the people that I work with? That's how deep relationships are built. It's, I love you. I believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look for opportunities to help you realize that for yourself. And in the process of doing that, I'm going to create a thriving business. And, you've done okay. You've done okay for on the business side of things, right? This is, it's like, well, yeah, this is all nice and all that, but but really, how does it translate to, actual business? Well, you're a great example of how it does. You've been extraordinarily successful. And you've helped other people to do that, including Katie, your daughter, and Olivia, and other people at leading authorities who've come through there and have experienced the Rainey Foster effect. If you've got Rainey on your side,
God, you're killing me.
you got Rainey on your side, and you take that seriously, you're going to do well. That was my experience 25 years ago.
27
years ago.
26. Yep.
And so again, this is, I'm using you, Rainey. I'm
It's
using you as an example because this is the kind of legacy that I think we should all strive for, right? And it's not complicated. It's really about cultivating love and for other people.
Yeah.
And that generates the energy and inspires people to be audacious in their goals. And the proof is in the success that you create and help other people to create for themselves. So that's my interpretation of, how do I take the Rainey Foster example and put it into a context that other people can apply for themselves. For you, given your expertise in this talent industry, I'm sure you run into this much more than I do. But when I'm not giving a speech or meeting people, I hear a lot of people say to me, "So, how do I do what you do? I've always wanted to do that. How do I do that?" And I get it. I get why people ask that question. You probably get asked that question all the time.
Oh God.
So what's the answer? So for folks listening to this conversation saying, I think I've got some talent. I think I'd be good in front of a group. I think I would love to have somebody invest in me the way Rainey invests in other people. But how can I do that for myself? What are some of the things that you'd recommend?
Well, I think you have to be really honest with people because they're inspiring and brilliant people all over the world in their genres and stuff. And a lot of times they're super talented, but I'm always very honest with somebody about, what the marketplace is and if the message is what they talk about is going to resonate. But it's like being an actor too. You can't do anything without a press kit. So my first conversation is always listening to their story and saying, I think there's some really good stuff there. And if we can pull out the metaphors, like love and energy and audacity and proof, you could pull out the things that anybody can relate to, in their family, in their business, in their city, in their state, in their universe, that these are common things that resonate, but I tend to be very honest with people and I kind of give them homework and I'll say, look, I think it's a great story. I need to see you. I need to see you because particularly in our business, you need to make sure that, no one gets up on stage and, has Tourette syndrome and drooling out of the left side of their mouth you need to see style. But for that particular question, I try to understand what their message is, manage their expectations and be really honest about what it's going to take because it is a gift and not everybody gets to do it. I don't know how many what percentage of speakers in the speaker bureau, thing work. It's probably like 5%, something like that. Mm-hmm. So if someone has a really powerful message, then I'll really encourage them to get a TEDx talk, because that's the best. Even the strong relationships that I've had with clients all these years, I really, really have to have multiple conversations about what this client brings if they do not have video. Which happens a lot when you find somebody new and cool and interesting.
Right.
It's like, who do you believe, me or your lying eyes, right? But I'll be like, you know what? I'm telling you right now, let's do a Zoom. You tell me. Mm-hmm. But so it's a lot of work. The answer to anybody who wants to be a speaker out there, it's a lot of work. It's like anything. It's like saying I want to have a hit record or I want to be in a movie. All right. It's really the same thing. Show business, baby. Show business.
It's all show business.
It's all show business. Needless to say, there's a bit of a lull in politics right now.
Yeah.
People want inspiration. They want leadership. They want culture. They want global trends. They want ChatGPT till the cows come home. But it makes it really interesting. And then they want a little entertainment. People just want to, they just want to feel connected in a very tumultuous time.
Yeah.
They're very connected. I think the lesson to this is that it just feels good it feels good to learn. It feels good to be compassionate. I think compassionate doesn't show weakness. I think it's your strength.
Yeah, and once people get a just a little taste of what it's like to have someone in your life that you've lifted up, you want more of it. I would hope. So thank you for inspiring us. I'm going to ask you to hang out just for a little bit after we wrap this up.
Okay.
So we can catch up on a couple of things. So for folks who tuned in today, thank you so much. I've had so much fun introducing you to my friend, Rainey Foster. And I'll remind you to go and check out theradicalleap.org. Download your copy of the Radical Leap audiobook. I hope that you will avail yourself of that, and I can live in your ear for however long it takes for you to finish that book. So until next time, thanks for joining me on the Leap Hour. See you again soon. Thank you for joining me on the Leap Hour. Hope you enjoyed our time together. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share the heck out of this thing. Also, don't forget to get your free copy of the Radical Leap audio at radicalleap.org. We'll see you next time on the Leap Hour.